the governments would try to stop the currency being a Bitcoin currency, but be a technology. But there would be entrepreneurs who would kind of run a shadow economy system based on Bitcoin. So how would you see that play out?
It's just not going to happen. I mean, you're wasting your time.
So you think they can?
When the DOJ calls someone up and says that's an illegal currency and it's against the laws of the United States of land, if you do it again, we'll put you in jail, it's over.
So you really
there's no issue. There will be, and this is my personal opinion, there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world. There's no government that's going to put up with it for long. It's kind of cute now. You know, a lot of the senators in Congress will say, I support Silicon Valley innovation. There will be no currency that gets around government control.
What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome start to your weekend. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies not exactly having the greatest start to the weekend. You can see Bitcoin is actually pushing down as I'm making this video, moving below 2%. You can see we actually got down to about $9,200. We did wick back up this morning, but we are currently trying to push down again as I'm making this video. Now, do keep in mind, it is the weekend, and of course, the weekends can get a little bit crazy. CME futures stop trading, so most likely we're going to put in a CME futures gap, but we also have some very critical resistance. You can see Bitcoin has been getting pushed down, so I want to talk about that, and I also want to discuss the fact that Bitcoin is looking for a major move by the end of this month, and it could happen as soon as basically 1 week from today. I'm going to show you the exact levels that I'm looking at specifically. Not only do I want to talk about the short-term price action, but once again, Raul, who if you watched yesterday's video, definitely check that out. He was on the Max Kaiser show, and they were discussing the market cap of gold and if Bitcoin would ever hit that or had the possibility of ever becoming that high of a valuation. And if it does, that would actually put Bitcoin at $450,000 per coin. But that's not all I want to talk about. There's actually one thing that could send the demand for Bitcoin absolutely skyrocketing through the roof. No, it's not the halving. It's not retail or institutional investment. This is something totally different, and we've seen it happen before, and it could happen again, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. And also, guys, have you seen this clip from Pierre Poilievre, I don't know how to say his name, talking to the Canadian finance minister? If you need any reason to buy Bitcoin or you want to show anybody a video, show them this video. I literally was rolling on the ground this morning. I almost fell off my chair. We're going to play that video a little bit later. You got to check it out. It's 4 minutes, but it's just absolutely, it's actually kind of sad, but it is hilarious at the same time. And that is it for me today, guys. That's not it for me. We're just getting started, but if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, consider it. And without further ado, let's hop right into the charts. So obviously, like I said, we are having some resistance right here, basically from the top of this trend, you know, down to this level right here. And Bitcoin is having difficulty breaking out above that. We are most likely going to have the CME futures gap happening over the weekend again. Now, the good news is that we are still putting in higher highs and higher lows. However, it does look like Bitcoin is getting into a bit of a slump right here. We have put in a short-term sort of lower high, so Bitcoin could try to retest this level again, which could bring Bitcoin all the way down to about the $8,700 level. But keep in mind, that would still be bullish. We would still be putting in an uptrend for Bitcoin, right? Now, having a look over here, I want to talk about the fact that right now we're actually sitting right at the heart line, which is this center of Bitcoin's ascending channel. Now, we don't have a lot of time to stay above this. You could see right here, we're going to actually come to an apex. Right here, you could see where essentially the resistance from this top is going to meet that heart line, and that is basically May 21st. So we could obviously see a move before then. We could come back down to the bottom of this channel, but the big Bitcoin move is going to be right here, and you can see that lines up exactly with June 3rd. Now, we know that Bitcoin usually is an impatient asset. We usually see big moves before Bitcoin actually gets to the end, so it could be possible to see Bitcoin, you know, fall back down, like I said, to around the $8,600, $700 level, maybe bounce around in here a little bit more, but right here is where Bitcoin essentially is going to have that make or break moment, and that's going to decide whether we're going to have that major breakdown or a major breakout. Now, keep in mind, we are putting in a descending broadening wedge with a target of $15,500, but that's if Bitcoin decides to break out to the upside, right? We have a lot of resistance right up here between the $10,000 and $10,500 level. You could see it stomped us out multiple times, once back here in October of 2019, right here during February of the beginning of the year, and then of course just in the recent pump in the beginning of this month. So Bitcoin is not going to have an easy time getting above these resistances. You can see we're falling below the major support already that we had back here when we did pump back in June of 2019, and we are trying to stay above this resistance, which is currently sitting around about $9,300. So if Bitcoin can't remain above this on the weekly chart, well, then that's not really good for Bitcoin. Long-term, Bitcoin's still looking good. Short-term, we may see, a little bit to the downside. So just keep that in mind, guys. But we are looking at the fact that Bitcoin is repeating almost the exact same pattern that we did right before the massive blast off with the 160% increase that we had last year. And that's Bitcoin putting in 7 green candles followed by this sort of red doji, which we had right here. Maybe it's more of a spinning top, depending on how you're looking at it. But like I said, we do have to break out of this resistance, but could be good for Bitcoin if we do break out. Well, I'm expecting a massive move to the upside. Could we break down again? Yes, it's possible, but just want to keep you guys in the loop. Also, friendly reminder, today is the launch of spot trading over on Femex. This is not leverage trading. This is just regular buying and selling. You could do it for Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, and Chainlink. So if you want, you'll see over here, spot trade gets started, and then they'll kind of show you how to do a deposit and how to get going, etc. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely check that out. It is for a flat rate fee of $10 a month. That's it. You can do as many trades as you want. I will drop the link below in the pinned comment and in the description, but I want to dive in today to this conversation that Max Keiser and Raul Pal had, and they actually started talking about Paul Tudor Jones, but really I want to talk about what I want to show you is what they were talking about when it actually came to his opinion on the halving, right? And whether or not Bitcoin could actually hit the market cap of gold. And then there's actually a second part to this video I want to show you guys after that as well.
Your kind of fundamental reason to get into Bitcoin is very well thought out. And, Paul Tudor Jones, obviously, he's somebody I remember from my career in the early 1980s on Wall Street. He single-handedly reinvented the hedge fund industry. When he talks about now Bitcoin being like gold in the 1970s, to your point, we did have stagflation then. So gold did very well in that environment. And of course, it made a move from $35 an ounce approximately to $800. So if he's getting in at these levels at around 9,000, then he's suggesting you've got a 30x move in Bitcoin. And secondly, do you buy into the theory that at some point the market capitalization of Bitcoin would be getting close to that of gold? Gold's got a market cap of about 8 trillion or so. Bitcoin's around the 130 to 160 billion. What's your thought on these ideas?
I probably did the first stock to flow analysis of Bitcoin back in 2012 or 13, where I looked at it versus the supply of gold, and just with a pretty crude analysis figured out that at the time with gold at 1,200, Bitcoin was probably worth $1 million. And I kind of stand by that analysis, and I know that Plan B and his stock to flow ratio work has kind of come up with similar things, mathematically proving it. For me, if it is the future of the financial system, it sure ain't worth 200 billion. That's the size of a company like Bed Bath and Beyond or something in the US. It's just not meaningful yet. But I do think that its valuation over time, if it becomes the ecosystem we believe it will be, and it'll take the whole ecosystem with it as well, I think, then yes, I think a 10 trillion number is easily achievable within that process, because that takes it from being a niche to an asset. So once it's a full asset class, it becomes investable for others. And that's another really interesting proposition, or property, that Bitcoin has. Basically, everybody in the world is short it, because we're all eyeing each other, or we're not, but the people who don't participate in it are all eyeing it, saying, do I need to do something or not? And the only arbiter of that is the price. The more the price goes in, the more it brings people into the market. So the market is basically short all the way up and scrambles to get in. So it's going to be fascinating. And that's why I'm very interested in this halving period, is to see over the next 18 months, how much capital does this bring into the marketplace? And I think it's going to surprise many people.
So he relates it to a $10 trillion market cap, which is even higher than $450,000 per Bitcoin. And also, like he says, most people are sitting on the sidelines. And, you know, unfortunately, it really is price. You know, some people go, oh, you know, you talk too much about price. But let's be honest, price is really what gets most people interested. And unfortunately, most people do end up buying way too high. Now, the second point that I wanted to show you in this video is essentially when Max Kaiser starts talking about Paul Tudor Jones' investment into Bitcoin, and also the fact that we have the halving and we do have miners now having only 900 Bitcoin coming out every day as opposed to 1,800, which means that there's less selling pressure from the miners, right? If the miners want to sell their Bitcoin every day, well, now they only have 900 Bitcoin a day to sell as opposed to 1,800. But I'm going to actually play this clip because he actually makes some really good points, and then we're going to talk about it, and then I want to go into the one thing that most people also don't realize could definitely increase the demand for Bitcoin short term. Let's check this out.
You know, I think the timing on Paul Tudor Jones is interesting because he came in the week of this halving, the third halving in the life of Bitcoin. And one description of what's happening now in the life of this industry is that the sell side of this market, those selling coins, it transitions from being dominated by the miners to being dominated by the exchanges. In other words, when you cut the daily coin emission in half, you're going to have less mining sales going on, just mathematically, that you can say that with certainty. And therefore, the market, the price discovery will be more, will be transferred, and it'll be more relevant on the exchanges, the actual ebb and flow of supply and demand, buys and sales. So my point is that Paul Tudor Jones, he's not a miner. He's not coming into this via mining. He probably didn't want to put the resources into understanding what mining is all about, but he probably knows now that the game is in his home field. He's got the home field advantage now. It's all about futures trading, and all the tricks that hedge fund managers can employ to eke out alpha, right? It's in his bailiwick now, his lighthouse. This is his world.
And a well-respected guy like Paul Tudor Jones isn't going to put his reputation on the line. I mean, like Max Kaiser said, he basically got into gold, and gold, for the most part, I think it like 30x'd or something since he started investing. So, you know, now he's looking to get into Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was to 30x from where we are right now, well, I don't have to tell you where that would put Bitcoin. It would be a little bit underneath $300,000, right? Now, also, before we get to that, I just want to prove to you that you could see also activity on Twitter, which is just, you know, sentiment. It's just something you can look at. Well, basically, the activity for Bitcoin, tweets about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, are rising, with Bitcoin clearly skyrocketing leading into the halving, showing that a lot of retail traders are interested, not to mention the fact that CME Bitcoin futures options open interest is up 10x this month. So obviously, I don't have to explain to you interest, okay? People are interested, right? But here is the thing. Morgan Creek Digital co-founder Anthony Pompliano, he says that Bitcoin's status among traditional investors is starting to change. To quote him, he says, Bitcoin is not going away. You're starting to see a lot of Wall Street investors actually putting it into their portfolios, and they're starting to also have some track record for these exchanges for businesses so they can see the financial performance. He says, so I think ultimately what you're really going to start to see is that banks can't ignore the space. In fact, he says he's seeing two sort of groups of investors. The first group of investors, like Paul Tudor Jones, for example, coming out saying he's got about 2% of his portfolio invested. These are people that have done their homework, they've looked into it, and they're worried about the inflation with all the money printing that's going on, and they're looking to hedge into Bitcoin. The second you have is these institutional investors that he says they're sitting on the sidelines looking at it like, hey man, this is a pretty unique asset. Over a long period of time, it's been completely non-correlated to all these other assets. I think I should definitely gain some exposure to this asset of Bitcoin. And look, guys, Peter Schiff, he's the gold bug. He trashes on Bitcoin all the time. I'm not a fan of the guy myself, but you know what? He makes some good points. And in this tweet, he says the Fed's balance sheet swelled another 212.8 billion to 6.9 trillion last week as money supply surged another 198.6 billion. This unprecedented level of inflation will only accelerate and end in complete disaster. Of course, he says to buy gold. I say buy Bitcoin. But anyway, grab a Bitcoin. Whoever made this logo, this is absolutely awesome. But yeah, I mean, what is up with all this money that's constantly being printed? And if you need a reason to buy Bitcoin, you seriously have to see this clip right here, where they're basically interrogating the Canadian Minister of Finance, asking him to, you know what, let me just play the clip. This is absolutely hilarious. And this is just more reasons, trillions of reasons, if you count every dollar, of why we should buy Bitcoin. So check this out.
Equity of the government of Canada's balance on the government of Canada's balance sheet.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would advise a member of Carleton to memorize those Auditor General figures for his next foray into the House of Commons.
The Honourable Mr. Polyev.
So the minister has claimed that our balance sheet is strong. There are three components to a balance sheet: the assets, the liabilities, and the equity. And the minister doesn't know any of the three. So clearly he doesn't actually know anything about our balance sheet. That's reassuring. Now, according to the Auditor General, the negative net worth of our government of Canada will be as much as $1 trillion by the end of this fiscal year. Can the minister, if he's familiar with any of these numbers, tell us, is it possible his government will hit $1 trillion of debt this year?
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure Canadians that our approach will be to continue to make investments on their behalf, and that is available to us because of our strong fiscal position, but we will continue to take that approach, which we think is the appropriate approach.
Polyev.
$1 trillion, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we will continue to focus on the importance of supporting Canadians.
Mr. Polyev.
What is the size of our current national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
And Mr. Speaker, I think that what will happen as we do that is we will allow ourselves to have a stronger economy at the end because of these investments.
Polyev.
The size of the national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
And we have always seen, Mr. Speaker, that these investments, they're not only supporting Canadians, they're supporting businesses, so that we do have a strong economy and a strong fiscal position coming out of this position.
Mr. Polyev.
Does the finance minister know the size of our national debt?
The Honourable Minister.
The interpreters. Mr. Speaker, I will continue to focus our efforts as we believe we should focus them on supporting Canadians through this time.
Mr. Polyev.
Does the finance minister know what $1 trillion is?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are continuing to make investments that we believe are prudent in the face of this economic challenge, supporting Canadians as we know we need to.
Mr. Polyev.
What is the total dollar value of all the public and private debt in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know that by supporting Canadians, by investments, that we will enable Canadians to have less debt themselves, because that's correct.
Mr. Polyev.
What is the total debt, public and private, as a share of GDP in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the important consideration here is that the federal government is taking a position that we should support Canadians so that they don't take on the debt themselves.
That's right. Yeah, last intervention.
And yet they have record household debt, record corporate debt, and growing government debt. The finance minister doesn't seem to know any of the basic numbers you would be required to govern the finances of the government of Canada. So I will give him one last chance. What is, based on his latest briefings, the total size of Canada's national debt? If he doesn't know, can he have the humility and honesty just to say so?
I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count if the finance minister actually knew what the debt was. So that is insane. That is absolutely crazy. I literally fell on the ground laughing. Like, I mean, this is just ridiculous, guys. How many more reasons do people need to at least allocate some potential whatever, into Bitcoin. I can't give financial advice on this channel, but I think you guys know where I'm going with this moving forward. And I want to talk about one sort of hidden reason why we could see massive demand for Bitcoin. Now, you could see right here, this is actually veteran investor and analyst David Sokolsky, okay? Now, he basically says that the latest conflict going on right now could begin a new trade war, one that would be much worse than the one between the US and China last year. Now, for some of you that are new to crypto, you might not be aware of the fact that when this was really at its peak, we actually saw Bitcoin start to actually really increase in value during that time. He noted that a grim geopolitical climate would also slow global economic growth further, right? Now, you can see, essentially, last year's trade war left a significant dent on the value of the Chinese yuan. If you didn't happen to know what was going on, essentially, the currency fell below the sort of psychologically important level of around $7, right? And this did create a massive sell-off in stocks and other risk-off assets. Now, keep in mind, in that exact same week, we saw Bitcoin absolutely surge 35%. Now, this basically suggests that the Chinese investors, maybe, speculation theory, potentially drove up the value of Bitcoin demand higher to protect themselves from the yuan's devaluation. Now, of course, you know, can we actually prove this? No, it could just be a coincidence, but it's a damn crazy coincidence that it happened, right? And you can also see right here, data from eToro right down in this chart shows that Bitcoin open position spiked by about 284%. It was the same period that also saw Trump and the president of China beating each other in what they refer to as tit-for-tat trade tariffs, okay? So this could also skyrocket demand as well if we do see another trade war happening, just like we did last year. In fact, yeah, I mean, it was pretty incredible how the timing was. So, you know, some people saying this could be speculation, it could be coincidence. Just keep that in the back of your mind, guys, though. You never really know what could drive the price of Bitcoin up. But with all of these things mounting on top of themselves, the trade situation, the situations going on right now, geopolitically, obviously, with, you know, the virus. Yeah, I mean, the printing of money, let's not forget. Definitely crazy times for Bitcoin. And I also wanted to just talk super quick. Some people have been asking me, I know this video is going on for a while. I'll make this part quick. But people have been asking me about altcoins. Should they invest? You know, obviously you saw Omise go skyrocket like 30 something plus percent. Maybe it was more than that. Basically, that was due to the fact that Coinbase Pro is looking to list it on Monday. But you can see right here that there was sort of this chart that came out from Coinbase where they were talking about people who buy Bitcoin. And most people, if 60% buy Bitcoin as their first purchase, 40% buy altcoins as their first purchase. Now, of the 60%, 24% remain in Bitcoin, but 36% eventually purchase altcoins. Now, why do they move into the altcoins? Well, obviously what happens is they notice that altcoins have a better potential for gain, right? In order for you to double your money for Bitcoin, if Bitcoin's at 10,000, it has to go to 20,000. If you have some altcoin with a very low market cap of only like $5 million or something like that, it only has to go another 5 million in order to double your money, whereas Bitcoin has to literally move another 180 billion, whatever the market cap is today, in order to increase your value. And you can see right here in this chart, basically after Bitcoin hit its all-time high at the end of December, in January is when we really had that altcoin season. You can see right now Bitcoin is at a very critical level on its dominance, sitting slightly just below it, looking to push above. Now, if Bitcoin does break out to the upside, we are going to see altcoins lose their value, not necessarily in dollars. You could be sitting in an altcoin and still gain 5% a day, but it's going to be losing in value to Bitcoin. You're going to see Bitcoin's value going like 8%, whereas the altcoin's just going to kind of get dragged up with Bitcoin as well. Now, keep in mind that you can see that not only on the Bitcoin chart, but also on the altcoin charts right here. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to chart because it's all of the altcoins. It's really not fair to lump them all into one category, but nevertheless, we do have a chart for that. And you can see that there is a lot of resistance right here for altcoins. So to answer your question, should you invest in altcoins? I can't give financial advice if you want to buy altcoins. Some of them are going to do very well right now. Some of them aren't. But as far as a total, absolute altcoin season to the moon, better to be sitting in any random altcoin rather than Bitcoin right now, in my opinion, not necessarily. Really what you're going to want to look for is for Bitcoin to sort of break those new all-time highs, like after 20,000. That's when you're going to see people rush into it. Bitcoin's going to have an absolute spike, a moon. Then there's going to be buyer exhaustion, right? There's just not going to be any more buying. You're going to see the whales start selling. And after that, you're going to notice Bitcoin is going to start declining in price, going sideways. And at that moment, I believe, is the time to invest in altcoins. My opinion, lots of you guys have been asking me about that. So that is it. Want to keep this video. Don't want this video to go on any longer than it already is. Also, guys, keep in mind, if you want to get 50% off your Ledger Nano S, they're only doing that for, I think, 2 more days. So you only have 2 more days to get this. So it's with code WeAreTheBullRun. I'll drop the link below for that as well. And that is it for me today, guys. So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. Having a look at Bitcoin right now. Yeah, we are pushing below the $9,500 level. So, yeah, I mean, we'll keep our eyes on it, guys. Like I said, we could potentially come down and retest around the $8,600, $8,700 level. But essentially, it's the weekend. Things get crazy. You know how Mondays go with the CME futures gap. So that's it for me today, guys. This video has been long enough. Thank you so much again for coming back to the channel. To all my new subscribers, I love you guys. To all my old subscribers, I love you guys as much. And also, if you want to join the free Telegram group up here, link in the description. We hang out, we talk crypto all day. It's totally free, fun place to chill. That being said, I'm out of here, guys. Thanks again for spending another day over on the Crypto Zombie channel. I do appreciate your company. My name's K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto, and of course, peace out.